What's going on, guys? Welcome to Cruising with Kevin. Today I'm gonna show you guys what kind of fuel mileage a Dodge V10 truck gets, my 1995, and this 2013 Duramax. So kind of tell you what they both are, and let's get to it. Welcome to TK's Garage 405. Check out the new hoopty. Okay, so I figured I'd just make a dual video here so you can kind of see, not necessarily a comparison, but just kind of what they both do. So the truck I'm driving right now, it is a 2013 Duramax. It's a 2500 Silverado. It's the LML series Duramax. Yeah, that's about all I know about it. The guy said it's deleted, which I don't think it is, and I think he said it had a tune, which I don't think it does, which I didn't think it did when I bought it, but it is what it is. So I'm taking this thing on its first real trip. We drove it home about 8 hours or whatever there. It had some check engine codes when I bought it. We ran the code scanner on it, cleared it off, and then seeing what it's doing now. So far, when my wife drove it home there, we kind of checked the fuel mileage a little bit on the way back. I wasn't driving it, but she thought the speedometer was off, and I checked it with my actual speed box here, and it's not. So it's pretty much almost on. So I'm not exactly sure what that was about, but anyway, so that's where we're at with it. Like I said, it's supposed to have a bit taller tires, apparently, according to the door. It's got taller tires on it, so I'm not sure why. If anything, it might be like a mile per hour or two off, so nothing drastic enough to make a difference. So it is four-wheel drive. It's a long bed. So we towed our car back with it. Of course, it would have the least amount of wind drag and things like that. And it was getting about, well, I thought it was closer to 16, but it was actually, because it's pretty much bang on accurate there, right around 15. There was about 14.6, and then I think one tank touched 15 there, so didn't burn too much fuel on the way home. I was kind of like, okay, well, maybe this will actually be worth it, you know. So I drove it now. It had like half a tank, so I filled it up, and then I drove it a little ways, and I filled it again, and I checked the fuel mileage on the last tank there, and it was 11.6. So I'm pulling my flatbed trailer behind with a small compact backhoe, so it weighs total about actually it's only about 5,000 pounds right now, so not too, let's call it 55, about 5,500 pounds. The truck has a toolbox in the back and a slip tank. Both are empty. There's nothing in them, so that's it. It's pretty much pretty much is what you're gonna get. So it is really, really windy today driving into this headwind, so it wasn't as bad earlier, but so the first tank, just to clarify that, I was driving about 70 for about half of that. The first fill, I should say. I didn't put a full tank, pretty close. So I drove about 70, half, and about 75 the other half. So kind of give you an idea. This time I thought, well, maybe it's just because I'm driving that much faster. So I set the cruise to 66 here, just to see if it would make a huge difference or not. Obviously RPMs, they always say that's what kills diesel's fuel mileage. So right now at 66, it's at about 1600 RPM. So that kind of gives you an idea there. There's not, like I said, there's not really much a person could do to change it. Actually, it was low on air in the tires and things when we drove it home a little bit there, so I topped that off thinking it would be better. So when I picked it up, changed the oil, changed the fuel filter, and greased everything up and changed the air filter. So really it should have picked up more, not gotten worse. But it is a pretty, we had a really bad, or I had a really bad side wind for this tank, and now it's actually turned into quite a bit of a headwind here. So we got the windmills going here. I'll show you that. You can see in the distance all the windmills are going, and they're basically facing almost my direction here, so obviously that's going to affect the fuel mileage. So with that being said, I'll do a few checks here just to make it a fair comparison. I want to do it all the way home, all the way to where I'm going on New Mexico here, and then all the way home, because it's when you're coming out of New Mexico, you're actually going downhill for quite a ways there, so that'll kind of give me a balanced idea here, and then to see if it really makes a huge difference, maybe if I have no headwind or just a like a tailwind or whatever, how much of a difference it actually makes. But right now at this point, I can tell you, if my gas truck didn't have a camper on it, which it always does, but if it didn't, because I've driven it without that, and it was running like exactly how it should be running with no little things or whatever, I mean, it would basically be getting the same, if not even a hair better fuel mileage than this. So, but so with that said, this is a really, really strong headwind today, but again, I feel like I'm going to call it the same. I would say it's exactly the same, except I'm paying probably 20% more for diesel, even on the cheapest tank here. Just for example, I saw gas for $2.19 earlier at Love's there. So $2.19 a gallon for gas, and to actually hunt for diesel, you can't buy it at Love's because it's going to cost way more money than just getting it like Walmart or something like that. So I paid $2.74, which is the cheapest on this route. So that's a big difference, right? Like, and again, so you initially have to make up that difference in fuel mileage. Plus, you have to be able to know that, when you change the oil, for example, or if you have to add DEF, or if you have to do any maintenance or any problems happen, I mean, it's going to cost you so much money. I mean, it's just hard to justify. I mean, you could find a used engine, do an engine swap with a low mile engine, and take it into somebody to swap it for you for like $3,000 in a gas 6-liter truck. I mean, that's not even injectors in most of these diesels. So, or the CB4 pump thing or whatever. I mean, that could be a $10,000 destruction. So it is still throwing some codes. I messaged the guy about it because he said he'd give me a warranty on it. He's like, I'll give you 3 months warranty on the CP4 pump issue if you end up having it, which he's like, you won't have it, but if you do, I'll give you a warranty on it. So I messaged him. He's like, I'm in Vegas. I'll talk to you when I get back on Wednesday. So in the meantime, I'm using it. I'm going to be back on Wednesday for my daughter's birthday anyway. So, and then from there, I guess I can kind of decide what I'm going to do here, because we'll see what he says. But again, not super happy with it. It's not, I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, the power's better. Like when you're pulling hills and stuff, it's not going to downshift or whatever right away. Like I could see in a 10-speed, it would pick up a little bit of fuel mileage, because of course a diesel is going to be a lot of torque, really, really low in the RPM. So, I mean, you could probably sit there and lug that thing at 1200 RPM pulling 10,000 pounds, and it would probably do it, I would assume. So, but then again, if you have to add DEF and if you have to have all these issues, I just don't see it. So I'm going to calculate all these tanks off so you guys can get an accurate measurement there. Like I said, I'll do the Dodge. So the Dodge is the 1995 Dodge V10, the first year of that V10. It actually does really well pulling. Actually, the last trip there, you'll see that I'll put all those clips together here, but that thing actually does pretty well. So we'll kind of see, I guess. Like I said, when I came home with it, I was pulling my Camaro, so it was pretty similar weight, probably a little bit heavier actually with my car on it. So just to kind of, yeah, for sure it would be. It's probably about 1,000 pounds more I was pulling with the Dodge there. Same configuration, except it's 2-wheel drive. So 2-wheel drive, automatic transmission, very similar miles. So that's, again, like I said, that just gives you an idea of what you're kind of dealing with there. So we'll show you once I get through this whole trip what kind of fuel mileage I get every stop here, and we'll kind of see how much it varies around. But to me, so far, not super impressed. I'm gonna have to pick up a lot more. If it was getting 15 with this load, that would make a lot more sense to me, right? 15, I mean, from what everybody talks, 15, 16, some guys are saying they're getting like 17, 18, which just doesn't make sense to me. But I thought, well, let's give her a shot here. So that's what I'm doing. So like I said, I want to give it an accurate, fair comparison, but I just don't still feel like there's an advantage, at least not fuel mileage wise, long-term ownership wise, things like that. You look at my gas truck with 465,000 miles on it. I mean, that's a lot of miles to really have no real major, I mean, I'm talking major things that cause you actual you know, downtime or major costs or whatever, or something you can't just fix on the side of the road. So, you know, just kind of one of those things where I don't feel like I'm really having an advantage with diesel still. So we'll find out this trip though. All right, guys, I know this isn't super commonly asked questions anymore because these are starting to be older trucks now, but I figured I would do a little mile per gallon test there. I kind of pretty much know from driving it a bunch, but I'll kind of show you here. If this one's a 1995 Dodge V10 truck, first year of it. I don't know about the later years, but I would assume it would be similar. This one's a dually two-wheel drive, so that kind of gives you an idea. I kind of drive it, I guess. It's got 355 gears. And yeah, that's kind of the bulk of the truck, so I'll show you that. So let's get to it. Okay, guys, so I just went 148 miles, and I'm looking at the gallons here. It's 14.7 gallons, so it's right at 10 miles per gallon. Just a tiny touch under there. I did hand calculate the last tank there. It was at 9 miles per gallon. So these last two tanks I've been going just a little under 75, about 74. I drove it all the way to California, and the lowest it got was about 6.7. The highest it got was about 9 that trip. So that's kind of the average here. Like I said, Dodge dually, bone stock, kind of needs a tune-up. Actually, I never finished tuning it up, some things like that. So I'll just kind of show you as I go along. But right now I've got my Camaro behind me. It's the trailer is about I think the total, I'd say that between the two is about 7,000 pounds. So not a ton of wind resistance compared to pulling like a skid steer or something, but in my experience from doing that kind of stuff, it doesn't make a huge difference. It just doesn't really care. So I'll show you a couple stops as I go through here, but that will kind of give you a baseline idea. All right, guys, so second fuel stop here. I was into a pretty stiff headwind, probably 80% of the trip there, but yeah, it got worse. I was driving 66 and it got 9.8 miles per gallon this tank, which is, so I mean, to be fair, that's not crazy with that kind of wind, but like my truck would probably, my gas, my 6-liter would probably do like, you know, if I drove it like the same speed like that, like 66 or whatever, with the camper on it, it would probably get, you know, 8. So I would say it would get exactly the same pretty much. So like I said, I mean, I've tried so many diesels. People keep saying, well, you got to buy a diesel. They're the best and they'll be the best per fuel mileage and it'll save you a bunch of money and blah, blah, blah. Well, it just doesn't. I've had 12 valve Cummins, tuned 7.3 Power Strokes. I've had the newer Duramax, which I've said that's the only one that actually saved me money on fuel. That was a half ton. I've had, I mean, a bunch of different gases. It's not making up the difference. It's just not. There's just whatever the deal is here. I just maybe was expecting more, but like I said, it'll probably pick up going back, not into the wind or whatever. It'll pick up some more, but I mean, you know, it's not even 20% right now. I mean, that's not even making up the cost of fuel, so it just doesn't make sense right now. So I don't know, we'll do a few more fill-ups and see, but so far it's kind of exactly what I was anticipating here. All right, guys, another fuel mileage test on this V10 Dodge here, 95 V10 Dodge. So you can see it's at 151 miles on the trip meter. Come over here and show you guys, just so you know I'm not playing around here. It's 20.2 we called it, so it's about 7.4 or 7.5 miles per gallon. So I mean, it's fairly windy today, so the last tank obviously was getting 9, which was about the best I really see out of this truck towing. The time before that was a little bit less, so it bounces around, but again, depending on wind and speed. All right, guys, made another stop here. This time I only went 112 miles. It burned 9.7 gallons. Yeah, worked out to just about 11.5 miles per gallon there. The wind died down quite a bit and I slowed down to 60 just to see. So I don't know. Like I said, it's doing exactly what my gas would do. I mean, it's without the camper on the back. This is literally exactly what honestly, I think my gas might even do a little better than this, pulling this load. there's like no wind drag. It's not that heavy really, so I don't know. It's interesting to kind of see though, but yeah, so I'm gonna get back on the road and get wherever I'm going for the night, and then I guess tomorrow I'll do some more calculating there. Price of diesel is getting quite a bit more now. It was $3.09 a gallon here, which is the cheapest, and then after this is getting up to about $3.60. Again, when gas in those same places, when it's like $3.69 a gallon for diesel, gas is like still in the $2.89 range. So it's just, yeah, it's hard to justify, right? You just can't make up that difference. I will say through the hills and all that kind of stuff, like even with the wind and the hills and everything, it never downshifted at all. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes, I guess. All right, guys, you can see 179 miles divided by 20.7 there. So that works out to be about 8.6 miles per gallon. So I slowed down to about 70 for quite a while, about half at 70, about half at 75. So that kind of shows you when you slow down, it makes quite a bit of difference. So yeah, that's not too bad. All right, guys, another fuel stop here. I calculated it out and it got 8.4 miles per gallon this tank. I went 75 mile an hour, and then it also idled for about an hour this morning. So let's call it 9 probably. But you know, again, there was a little bit of a headwind last night. It was kind of rolling hills or whatever, but just not really good. It's just not gonna make up any kind of difference. Like I said, I do like the power. It does really, really well power wise or whatever. Probably the most power I've had in a diesel or close. I think my Towing probably had more, but it was more mass too. So, but overall, pretty happy with the power for just a stock truck or whatever. But yeah, I don't know, just not what I'm looking for, I don't think. So I don't like that it's starting to have these little problems already. It looks like it's got the CP4 problems that I was kind of anticipating here, which is not good. So talking to the dealer I bought it from and figuring that out. So, but that's what it got for fuel mileage. All right, guys, probably our last fuel stop here. This truck got 7.76 miles per gallon. We were driving about 75 that time. I just filled up the Duramax there and it got just a little over 15 miles per gallon. So all that thing is towing right now is our little carb, but that's, I mean, that's pretty good. So we'll see, I guess, if that continues, but a good start, maybe hopeful here yet. So we're hitting the road. All right, guys, so I think you got the idea here anyways. I just refilled it again and it got 8.1 miles per gallon. There was a lot more slow zones. You had to speed up and go down to like 55. So like I said, it's just, it averages kind of right around that 8 mile per gallon mark. Doesn't generally do a whole bunch better than that. Doesn't generally do a whole bunch worse. So like I said, the worst I think I've ever seen is high sixes, about probably like 6, 7 or something like that, when I was towing like 16,000 pounds of skid steer through Montana there, and through Wyoming, heavy wind, you know, mountains obviously. So for the most part, you know, it always gets like a 7 to 8 kind of thing, towing pretty heavy. So I think that's pretty decent. There are some factors in there. 355 gears, if you can keep it in overdrive. So like that's, I would say the one downfall here is every little hill, it's like the way that the kind of shifting sort of takes place. You either have to shift it out of overdrive because it'll just lose speed until it's almost at like, you know, it's probably lost like 20 mile an hour before it actually upshifts or whatever. So, or downshifts, I should say. So just some little things like that. But overall, for being an older truck, it actually works really well. It runs really good. It does have good power. They did have different gear sets in these, as low as like 410s or 411s. So, but I would suspect that would be at the cost of fuel mileage. So whatever you guys are kind of looking to do, I mean, this truck will tow pretty much anything. So, you know, it's still an older truck. It has the older truck quirks, the little things that were kind of whatever, but back in the day, I mean, pretty good truck. And, you know, I mean, overall pretty decent. So like I said, I think if you have to remember these fuel mileage numbers, it's a dually. It's not running perfect. It could probably use a tune up a little bit. I feel like if you had and it's a 3500 too, right? So I think if you had a single wheel 2500 I think you could get 10 miles per gallon towing, honestly. So, I mean, that's pretty good. My wife drove this thing around for like 2 months while we were finding her a car, just to city and back or whatever, and it got 10 miles per gallon all the time. I think empty on the highway would probably get 12 how this one sits. And again, if you had a 2500, I'm sure it would do better. So like I said, that's going to kind of wrap it up for this video. If you guys are looking at buying one of these, I think it's a decent purchase. You know, I mean, I got this one for a screaming deal. I forget exactly what I paid for it, or I think I paid like 2,800 bucks, somewhere in that ballpark for it there. It needed some stuff when I got it, but got it all sorted out. Not huge things, but yeah, so I think they're a pretty decent buy. You can get them definitely like 6,000 or less. I've seen some exact same trucks as this for, you know, around $4,000. There's been the odd one pop up there. More miles though, probably about double the miles. This one's only got about 172 on it now, so not too bad. But yeah, like I said, I mean, for under $6,000 to get a dually, you know, truck that'll kind of tow more than the average guy needs, I think that's a pretty good buy. So if you guys are looking at these, I think it's a pretty fair deal. So like always, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, share me around on social media. I am Cruising with Kevin on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and on Facebook. I am TK's Garage 405 still, because they still have not changed my name. So see how that goes, but thanks for watching again, guys. Okay, another tank of fuel here. The trailer is empty, so probably about 3,700 pounds. It doesn't say on the tag, but that's about what these weigh. Actually, it's 20 foot, so it's probably just a hair under 4,000. So somewhere in that ballpark anyways. Let's just call it 3,800 pounds. This was the best tank yet. There was basically no wind. There was no tailwind, but really no headwind or side wind or anything. It got 12 miles per gallon right on the nose, and I was going 80 mile an hour right on the nose. So I checked the speedometer at 78, it's going 80, so it's like 2 mile an hour off of that speed, which is nothing really. So it's kind of, you know, it's about the best it's gotten so far. The problem is, like, if I put my camper on it or something like that, that's a whole nother thing. And I just did a rough calculation there, just a ballpark idea. And I always kind of think with my gas trucks, when I'm driving empty, like when I'm driving unloaded with my camper on it, if it gets around that like 25 to 35 cents a mile empty, that's kind of normal. And then if it was like a really crazy, like burned tons of fuel and it was like expensive fuel or something like that, I'd be right at like probably 50 cents a mile. And that would be like extreme. Like that would have to be like the worst probably ever tank it's ever gotten kind of thing. So I'd say like a bad tank is typically 40 cents, you know, something like that. So I think right now, again, with the price of fuel, I mean, the price of gas here, and this is one of the more expensive places, is only $2.35 a gallon now. It's been going down again. You know, I've seen it for $2.19 a gallon. So, you know, it's just not going to win. So, I don't know. Like I said, I'll do a couple more tanks on the way home there, and then we'll kind of come to a conclusion. All right, guys, last leg of the trip here, last fill up. So I put 260 miles on, and it was 27.2 gallons. So basically it worked out to be about 9.6 miles per gallon. So I was driving about 80 that time for pretty much the bulk of the tank. I did start getting a side wind that was fairly strong there. Of course, getting back into Oklahoma. So that kind of gives you an idea. I went all the way from basically the Arkansas-Oklahoma border all the way to Albuquerque area and then all the way back. That gives you a pretty good balance. I did about the same thing from Midland, Texas and a little bit through there. I'll have to double check exactly where I started there, but basically kind of give you an idea what the Dodge did there. So apples to apples comparison, the Dodge really did about the same as this truck pretty well. It didn't do quite as good. There was a couple times where this truck was doing about 12, and I think the best that truck did was about 10. So, but again, price wise, I would say the Dodge almost beat it there. So, and again, the Dodge was pulling a heavier load. So if this thing was to pull my car, was a little bit heavier, a little more wind drag, it would be probably very, very similar numbers. So yeah, nothing to write home about other than this thing definitely has a lot of power. It tows good. Like there's definitely no complaints there. It is nice. Like, I mean, you know, almost 400 horse and whatever they are, almost 800 torque, I think, in these generations. So there's no need to turn them up at all. They got plenty of power. I would say the 10 speed would probably help a little bit in the new ones. Again, if you factored in the cost of fuel, the cost of DEF fluid, the cost of maintenance, oil changes, all that kind of stuff, you're going to be behind with the diesel. You're just going to get that little more power. The dinging you hear there is engine power reduced for the check engine light already. So again, there you go. I got a pretty good, you know, price on this truck, but you know, I bought it from a dealer again, which I bought the last Duramax from a dealer. It almost has the same problem it kind of looks like here. It didn't when I left, but it started up as I drove it a little bit here. So talking to him, deciding what we're gonna do about it tomorrow, hopefully. But yeah, so anyways, like I said, that kind of gives you an idea. If something was to really go wrong, let's say you had to put an engine in this truck, well, you're gonna be way more money behind then, right? Like I said, you could put a pretty low mile 6-liter in, take it to a shop and be $3,000 into it, where, you know, you're probably going to be 10 or more into changing over to a Duramax engine. If you can even find one that's lower miles or decent or whatever, really, you're probably going to end up with one that's got like, you know, a couple 100,000 miles on it, which is this one, right? This one's only got 180 right now, or 80, 180, whatever it is here. So that kind of gives you an idea of what you're going to be dealing with that. So anyways, guys, well, thanks for watching again. Tell me what you guys think in the comments, what your opinions are on it, if you've ever had any of these V10 Dodges or these Duramaxes, what your experiences have been. Like I said, for me, I've had a bunch of diesels. The result's always the same. The fuel mileage seems to be almost exactly the same. Everybody talks about these amazing numbers, and I just haven't seen them. I don't, maybe people have some special ones that I've never seen before that have magic fuel numbers, but the only way I see anybody getting way better numbers than what I'm getting here is with bad math. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you like, subscribe, share me around on social media. Cruising with Kevin on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. I'm TK's Garage 405 for now. Anyways, thanks for watching again, guys. Catch you guys in the next one.